for it, dude.
It's Friday! Friday! Friday!
How about now? There we go. This is what happens, and this is opening kickoff. Thank you, Ricky, by the way. This is what happens when you have, when your computer allegedly, nothing like the first 3 minutes of the show just completely going, all right. So anyway, this is what happens when you have a computer. Well, yeah, it better be good now. Okay, so tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. Since you heard me, and I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and do this just as like Friday's being Friday already. So we're going to do this. All right. Now, okay, so here's the deal. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. It's already been one of those mornings. So there's your QR code for those of you who are watching us, however you're watching us, whether it is on the 280-character app on Twitch or on our YouTube channel. Yeah, it is a restart, Ricky, because, and this is opening kickoff, and here's why. I don't know how many of you get to experience this as much as I do, but the computer decides whenever it decides it wants to update. And when it updated overnight and didn't tell me that it was going to, like I didn't get any kind of an email or anything saying that, hey, we're going to update. And it didn't. It didn't tell me that. And so it updated. And so literally it basically screwed up everything. And so now I had to, and apparently I'm doing this on the fly this morning, where I'm checking audio inputs and outputs, computer inputs and outputs, video inputs and outputs, passwords. So basically the computer here that helps allegedly me here in Office HD decided it was going to update and basically messed up everything. And so now I'm having to troubleshoot live on the air because I'm not necessarily thinking that, oh, by the way, I've updated all of the passwords and I've blown out all the cookies and all of these things need to be updated. So you have to backtrack. And yeah, you've got to recheck all your connections. I don't get that notification from the computer here in Office HD. So that's the kind of morning it is. I've basically had to reset passwords I've had to apparently find out that there's no audio coming out for the first 2 minutes of the show, and then figure out what the hell's going on, because it had happened once before, and I found out what it was when we were troubleshooting. Remember the Nixonian gap that we had like a week or two ago? Something like that happened. And so anyway, all right, so let me restart and let you know what's going on. Okay. We got a lot of news. We'll get into news leading into hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring, if they can join us at 9:30, because I know that Greg and Cap are two of the busiest men on the planet, and we will see if if they can come and join us, and we'll see what's going on with them at 9:30. 10 o'clock is Weekend Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later, and then that's all the weekend preview stuff, and we'll get into all of that. We get to catch up with folks that we didn't get to catch up with earlier in the week because I had to do stuff on Wednesday that didn't have anything to do with SDH. And so it's whoever wants to hop in the pile that we didn't have as a guest because of Wednesday being Wednesday. So yeah, that's hour number 2, getting you ready for the weekend, Major League Soccer, Atlanta United, all that kind of stuff. I have the anticipation that we're going long, but that's just me. Later today, if you've missed it, you're going to have the programming that we traditionally have on Fridays, the USL Championship, League One, MLS Next Pro, review preview stuff. That's going to be on later today. Yesterday, I hope that you were able to join us in hour number 1 where we caught up with Scott Wells, the head coach at Gardner Webb, and Taylor Morton, the head coach at Lees McRae. On the men's side, those conversations about Helene recovery and how everyone is from their perspectives in their circles, that's on the network. Later yesterday afternoon, which is kind of a present past participle usage, but anyway, late yesterday afternoon, caught up with Greg Munn, the DSO and the head men's coach at Mars Hill. That conversation in video form is already up. That is up on the YouTube channel and on Facebook page at SDH. The audio version is going to be put up later this afternoon on the app and on social media and all that kind of stuff. So you get to find out the Mars Hill perspective of things. Also, we have a conversation with our friends from Potros FC, Christopher Uranga, and the leading scorer for them. We get to hang out with them and find out what's going on with Mark Bino, who scored 8 goals so far this season for them with their 3-1-1 start in a very, very tough division in the Premier side on the UPSL. So Potros has a big matchup this weekend. After this weekend, they get 5 of the next 6 at home at Marietta High School. So Potros FC conversation coming up later today. Mars Hill audio coming up later today. Mars Hill video already up. Video and audio from yesterday's conversations with Scott Wells at Gardner Webb and Taylor Morton from Lees McRae already up. We're going to continue to have these conversations with these coaches, with these individuals. And as things are going, we'll kind of get updates and see what they need and all these kinds of things and put out the siren call. Next week, I'm looking to expand that to the high school ranks because of soccer being in session. And there's some folks, as we've discussed, that swath that Helene cut through the swamp in Georgia, southeast Georgia, into the Carolinas, up and out the Carolinas, the high school ranks. We got to catch up with them too, because while it is American football season, it's obviously it's a deeper conversation than that. So we'll start catching up with folks on the high school side. Jeff Davis is a school that I know through the American football side of things got hit really hard. The town of Hazelhurst. We'll start there and work our way up the path, and we'll catch up with friends at Georgia, and we'll have those conversations either live on the air or as soccer's in session catch-ups as we go. So there's all of that. So conversation with Potros, all of our weekly stuff, Mars Hill audio coming up, and all of the different things that are there. So that is what I think is what's going on this morning after having troubleshot live. Man, I'm speaking English very goodly this morning. So all of that. Oh, no, Alex. Potros FC in the UPSL, it has Marietta High School as their home field this season. And I don't know if it's Northcutt or if it's the actual campus. So Potros FC in the UPSL in the Premier Georgia division, that's where their home is. after this week, they have 5 of their next 6 there at Marietta High School. Like I said, I don't know if that means Northcutt or if that means the high school, the new high school. A couple of years old, but still the new high school. Anyway, so Potros FC. So, yes, actual campus. Thank you, Abby. So you've got that going on. So rundown today is news, all the other things. And we'll see if our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring can join us. 10 o'clock weekend whip around, getting you ready for the weekend. And I have a distinct impression we're going past 11:05. But that's nothing really new, is it? So, all right. So, morning, everybody. Now that I've restarted, unbelievable. Yeah, Ricky got no sleep last night. I don't think any of us did, considering that Kirko Chains threw for 5 spins and 4 scores, and last night in fantasy football, the American kind, I'm not very good, at least in judging depth and rookies and things like that. A couple of years ago, I won our league, and I've stunk ever since. And I had Darnell Mooney last night, but my opponent this week had Drake London. And so basically for me with the substandard roster, I'm trying to make sure that I don't lose ground coming out of the blocks. And so Mooney versus London last night for me, I didn't lose a whole lot of ground. I think I was like 1.9 points behind or something like that. So, yeah. So morning, Alex. Morning, Abby. So Abby says, got a notification that Twitch is increasing by $2 a month. And so Potro says 2 ADASL teams. And so Abby mentions that Sun plays against him in ADASL. So, but yeah, Potros in the UPSL in the Premier side in the Georgia division. A lot of heavyweights going at it. And we caught up, like I said, Christopher Uranga and Mark Bino. That conversation is going to be up later today on audio and video. Okay. Ricky, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I know the breaking news is just stunning everybody, that the Miami Club World Cup rubbing the wrong way, totally expected as much in FIFA as a justifiable reason with the Shield. Yeah, sure. But, I mean, we knew, and we've been talking about this for a long time, that Team 32, however you wanted to phrase it, if it wasn't going to be Messi and friends, and something ain't right. Because you've got to draw eyeballs in when you don't have a TV partner yet, when you don't have international TV partners, when you have everything that is out in the ether when it comes to this competition. Teams wondering what the payout is, where the payout's coming from, where your TV partners are, what the broadcast plans are, and there are more questions than answers. If you don't try and attract and I'm serious, thinking about this like, you have to think about this like a television program. And we talked about this before. Legitimately, if there is a team that makes a run, like let's say there's a team that makes a run out of lane 8. I mean, Seattle's in because of what they've done in CONCACAF in years past. Somebody makes a run out of lane 8. Somebody, let's see who's north of the playoff bar out west. So Colorado, say. So Colorado, say if Chris Armas and Colorado make a run and they were to win MLS Cup. Vancouver, Vanni Sartini, or whomever is not the can champ. So let's stick with so maybe the Loons. How about that? Somebody who's a 7 or an 8, or maybe a 9. If that particular club was to get on an absolute heater of heaters, win MLS Cup, if you are the Club World Cup and you're looking for Team 32, the wild card for the hosts, I mean, seriously, who are you picking? It's a no-brainer that you're picking Messi and friends over that other team as Team 32, as your wild card. You absolutely are. You absolutely are, because it's a television show. And what draws eyes to television shows? What gives you ratings? Star power gives you ratings. And in as much as Georgi Mihailovic, and with what Chris Armas is doing in this example, would be something that, it great for Colorado if they win MLS Cup and they, hey, we won MLS Cup. We need to be Team 32. Colorado Rapids, Messi and friends. It's a no-brainer. No-brainer that you have something like that go down. No-brainer. And so I get it. Even with all of the questions that are there currently in the in the hemisphere when it comes to that particular, legitimately. We actually the first bot we've had in a long time. So Extensive Enterprise, you are a bot. So we need to eliminate them or report them, and they're offline. That's just not very nice. They they want to sit there and hey, we're interesting. Yeah, go ahead and report them. That was the other thing. I had to reset passwords to everything this morning because I can't remember what the passwords are. And then you try to log in with an old password, it says, nope, that's not your password. And I'm like, the hell it's not. And you have to go back through and reset everything. So that was a pain. But anyway, literally, Georgi Mihailovic, Messi and friends. And there's Luis Suarez news also about Bielsa and interactions there that we'll get into this morning. There's news out of the NWSL, and it's heavy. And it's stuff that we got to get into, obviously, with the NWSL involving Angel City 1 and involving Rory Dames. So there's headlines there that we've got to get into. And let's see. So there's that. Where's my notes? Oh, there's my notes. Okay. Like I said, this is where we are this morning. So the other thing, I'll get into Luis Suarez now since we're discussing Messi and friends in the Gulfstream Galacticos. I do want to talk about the firecracker heard round the hemisphere because we finally do have a solution. We have a name attached to it. Lizzie Bescherano at the 4-letter, very, very early this morning. Luis Suarez exposed what he called problematic working conditions imposed by Marcelo Bielsa during the 2024 Copa America before urging fans not to blame players, quote, if something goes wrong moving forward. Bielsa joined May 15, 2023, immediately impacted the way national team functions, according to Suarez. At the Celeste complex, quote, employees are not allowed to come in and greet us and eat with us, he said on the DirecTV show De Fútbol se habla así. Quote, they have to be careful even at the door they have to enter. It breaks my heart that this is how life is in the complex today. Matias Vecino was first to see it coming. Nobody questions the fact that a guy like Vecino, who is 30 years old, left from one day to the next. Suarez went on to provide insight into the impact Bielsa's leadership had during the Copa, detailing the lack of communication between the coaching staff and players. Quote, there were situations at the Copa that hurt me, but I didn't say them for the sake of coexistence. Many players held a meeting to ask the coach to at least say good morning to us, but he didn't even say hello, end quote. A decent run before finishing third, beating Canada in penalties. Quote, Bielsa gives a conference and talks wonderful things about people. And in New York, there was a day when he asked us not to stop to greet people. And I stood up and told him that we were going to greet people anyway, he said. Suarez has since retired, playing his final match September 6th. Suarez said, I had a 5-minute chat with Bielsa speaking as a group leader. And at the end, he only replied, thank you very much. Focus now shifts to the 26 World Cup. La Celeste sit in third in the CONMEBOL rankings. Suarez signaled for caution, quote, tomorrow I ask people not to take it out on the players if something goes wrong. Bielsa has separated the whole group, even in the way they train. Uruguay returns to action October 11 against Peru, next round of World Cup qualifiers. So there's that. And so that came out this morning. Alex, literally. Man's nickname's El Loco. Not sure what else people expect. That is true. Circle gets the square. We also have news out of Nisa this morning, and that might also be kind of opening kickoff-ish. The firecracker heard around the hemisphere. We finally have a name attached to it. Adriana Garcia, very early this morning before we came on the air. Chivas midfielder Roberto Alvarado has apologized to journalists after throwing a firecracker that exploded in the media room ahead of Thursday's pre-match news conference. Journalists waiting at the Liga MX's club's Verde Valle headquarters for the news conference to start ahead of Saturday's Clásico Tapatío against Atlas were left stunned and then angry. The firecracker had been thrown from the nearby locker room. The club's press officer, along with Chivas defender Antonio Briseño, apologized to the media present, yet the journalist insisted that the perpetrator come out to apologize. Alvarado did come out and claim it was an accident, claiming that he had no intention of hurting anyone. No one was injured at the news conference. No one was injured, but the news conference did not take place since all the media boycotted it. So, all right, so let me get this straight. So, Roberto Alvarado, morning forecast. Roberto Alvarado decides that he thinks that throwing a firecracker into a press conference in a press room, that's a cool thing. But he says it was done by accident. Alvarado came out, claimed it was an accident, and had no intention of hurting anyone. When you take a lighted firecracker, all right, so let's walk through this process, shall we? You have a lighted firecracker, or you have a firecracker. Let's walk through this for a second. So you have a firecracker in your hand, and you sit there and you think, I think I should do something with this firecracker. I don't know what. Hey, there's a room of assembled people next to where I am, and I have an access point. If I were to open a door, it's like, door opens. Oh, firecracker. You light the firecracker. There's only a certain amount of time where you really can make an informed decision in your own brain of what to do with said firecracker in that time frame. So, literally, as Widespread Panic said with their live album title, the light fuse back away. So Roberto Alvarado decides, apparently, possibly, probably, okay, firecracker unlighted. Door, other side of door, press room. Lights firecracker. I have X number of seconds to decide what to do. Oh, open door. Jettison firecracker into room with assembled journalists. So, I mean, obviously the choice is one of two things. When the firecracker goes from unlighted to lighted and the fuse is going and you're hearing the tss, you only have a certain amount of seconds to sit there and figure out what to do. You're not going to keep that firecracker, throw it up into the air, and have it go off in the player's locker room, I don't think. I mean, unless you just want to sit there and go, hey, this will be funny. You throw it up in the air or something. But you make a conscious decision, apparently, to throw a lighted firecracker into an adjoining room where a door has to be opened, and you take the firecracker choice. I mean, literally, the choice is one of two things. Well, I mean, but four card remembers in 2020 when I wanted to bring fireworks into the Benz. Actually, the Benz has their own fireworks now that they launch from up high and send down low. But I mean, if you think about this process, and I'm trying to just work through in my head what Roberto Alvarado is processing here. I'm trying to follow his logic. But if you light a firecracker and you have X number of seconds to figure out what to do, either keep it in your room or put it in another room, and in the other room just happen to be assembled journalists getting ready for a press conference for a derby. Oh, but you have to make a conscious decision literally to open a door, throw the firecracker into the other room before it goes off so it doesn't go off in your dressing room or assembled area. I do not know the layout of the Chivas training facility. So Alvarado makes a conscious decision to go, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to go ahead and either open the door myself or have someone open the door, and I throw the firecracker into that room. Alvarado comes out, claimed it was an accident, had no intention of hurting anyone. So it was an accident that you consciously or unconsciously, let's just say, it was an accident that a firecracker that was unlighted became lighted. Then to compound the accident, to open an adjoining door to a press conference room that I imagine was fairly filled. And like I said, I don't know what the firecracker was. It might have been just one of those, pop deals. You sit there and you throw it in and it goes. I mean, I don't think it was like an M80 or anything, but just like something that we get when it was illegal to get them. You cross the border, you sit there and you get like buy one get 4 free. You light the you go across the border in the days previous to us all being adults. You go to like Tennessee and you go across the border. You go to Alabama across the border to like Lynette or Valley. You get all that group of fireworks and you're all happy that you smuggled it back into the state of Georgia for July 4th and you light the thing. But taking a firecracker, and sitting there and going, okay, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and have someone open a door, and I'm going to have that firecracker thrown into the press conference room. And we'll ask our guest coming up here in a second if he's ever had to experience firecrackers being lobbed into a room. Oh, I see the inquisitive eyebrow raise from our mogul in training. So he'll be with us here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and run our special intro. We're going to find out about Rhode Island FC. We're going to find out about the mogul in training. We're going to find out about fireworks being lobbed into other rooms because it's time for the Friday free kick. You know what that means. It's time for our buddy Michael Parkhurst to find out what's going on with our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring and maybe lighted firecrackers too. Here's the special intro. Hi, Cap.
Morning, John.
So I was explaining in something of an opening kickoff kind of a sense. Did you hear the story about the firecracker lobbed into the press conference room in Liga MX?
I did not.
So basically, it is as a Chivas Guadalajara midfielder Roberto Alvarado has apologized to journalists. And I imagine that there are times when I'm sure that players would sit there and they'd love to do something like this. I'm going to lob a firecracker into a press conference room and see the journalists scatter. That's the most vert I've seen from that beat writer in years. So Alvarado apologized to journalists after throwing a firecracker that exploded in the media room ahead of Thursday's pre-match news conference. So it's a derby presser. So I would imagine that there's maybe more than one or two journalists in said press conference room. Roberto Alvarado decides from the neighboring locker room to light a firecracker. Like I said, all this stuff is apparently like logic that's rolling through dude's head. So he goes from having an unlighted firecracker in his possession to a lighted firecracker in his possession. And like I said, I'm trying to walk through this process. And so Alvarado apparently thought that, lighted firecracker. I have two choices. I can keep it here in the locker room, or I can have someone open a door, which just happens to be to the adjoining press conference area, take said lighted firecracker, throw the firecracker into the press conference room, and have the firecracker go off with, journalists there. The press officer and one of the defenders apologized to the media, but the media was like, nah, fam, that's not going to work. We need the dude that did it. And so so Alvarado goes in. He comes out of the dressing room, and he claims it was an accident and that he had no intention of hurting anyone. As I sit here and wander through conscious decisions of it was an accident. So you go from unlighted firecracker to lighted firecracker, and lighted firecracker. Oh, I've got to do something with this. Door open. Firecracker through door, closed door. Firecracker go boom. It was an accident. Beat 2, 3, 4. The media were so pissed, no one was injured, but the presser didn't take place because all the media were like, nah, we're boycotting this thing. We're out. Have you ever, sir, in this go round of have you ever been with a teammate, either named or unnamed? I don't know if statute of limitations can apply here. Have you ever had a teammate that had that kind of a mischievous trouble streak attached to them where they thought that something would be funny, something like that? Have you ever been with a teammate that had that kind of mischievous trouble streak attached to them? Like I said, you can name names if you want. You don't name names if you don't want to, but you can either just say yes or no and maybe give an incident. I don't know.
I mean, I played with some crazy teammates.
How crazy were they?
Never did anything to the media or anything, but Like I had a goalie teammate once, Eastern European guy, and he showed up at one of our teammates' house. They got into it on the field, and he showed up to his house later on in the day with a baseball bat ready to go.
Whoa!
Telling him basically like he'd kill his whole family if he ever did anything like that on the field again. And
Wow.
yeah, nut job.
Wow.
But I've never seen a firecracker even in a locker room before. I don't even understand why is there even a locker room or a firecracker in the locker room?
I
It's
don't know.
craziness.
I
But
don't know. It's like, dude made conscious decision A, and you carry it back one further step than I did. Literally, firecracker. I think carrying a firecracker into a locker room is a great idea. Firecracker unlighted in locker room. Oh, let's light it. Oh, what do we do with lighted firecracker? Oh, there's a door. Oh, by the way, there are media people on the other side of that door. So I just had to ask. But yeah, Alex is like, that's less mischievous and more felonious when a bat is involved instead of a firecracker. I would agree that it is more felonious when it's when a baseball bat is involved, or just ask Marcelo Bielsa and Kevin Andrews. Speaking of Bielsa, we talked about Luis Suarez and him saying that the environment with El Loco as they were getting ready for the Copa was less than cordial. When it comes to this will be my opening point this week. Not that you would have had an El Loco as a coach, but when you talk to your mentees and when you talk to teammates, ex-teammates and everything, when it comes to navigating coaches and those in positions of authority that have different personalities, how do you talk to your mentees about, well, yes, this one's a player's coach, yes, this one's a hard A, that kind of a thing? Do you talk to them about navigating all the different personalities and just understanding that, yes, some folks operate differently than others when it comes to trying to get messages across?
for sure, we just had a blog about it because it's something that's come up repeatedly. So we were like, all right, we need to write something about this. Because yeah, it's mostly what we're dealing with is how do you deal with a hard ass coach who his coaching style is to get after you and try and push you that way, but they also tend to be yellers on the field and yell at you when you make a mistake. And just how do you be confident, play freely, and get something out of it when you're playing for a coach like that, especially when you, as an individual, don't really respond well to that type of coaching. Because as we know, that there's different ways to motivate people, and some are motivated by that tactic and others are not. And it should be a little bit more curated to the individual based on some things, but we know that that's not happening all the time with coaching. So yeah, it's challenging, and we try and tell them that whether you've got a coach that you agree with how he does things or not, you're hoping that, and until proved otherwise, you assume they have your best interest at heart and they're trying to get the best out of you and the best for the team, and they don't mean to do anything to make you play poorly. It's just their way of coaching. So how do you get the message and separate that from the tone, and use the information to the best of your ability? And sometimes you're not even going to agree with the information, but how do you balance that with what you've learned in the past, but also you want to do what you have to do to stay on the field? So yeah, there's a tough balance for sure. I mean, we had it with Tata when we started with Tata, especially for the English speaking group. It was so different than anything we had ever experienced, and on and off the field. And there were times, right, the way that we were playing, Jeff, myself, Alec in the back before Brad got there, we're looking at each other like, man, this is crazy. Like, we can't play like this. We're so exposed in the back. Like, we have to do a little differently, right? And so you do small little things to balance how the coach wants to play and how you see it out there on the field. And obviously, we were in a different position because we're out there performing and we're a little bit more veteran than some of the other players. So yeah, it's challenging though because there's a whole, just like individual players, there's a whole host of different coaches on different levels, and the way that they institute what they want is so different.
How do you, in a situation like that, how do you and Jeff and Alec and and everybody that's a veteran who's been through this kind of a ringer before, how do you listen? Then how do you implement the what might be, crazy just in general from your own observations, and then not let it get to you and kind of tweak it, where it's like you're trying to juggle about 19 different things. It's like you're paying attention to what he's saying, you get it, but then you put your own little twist on it and not make it look like you're being disrespectful, I guess is what I'm saying. It's like you understand where he's going, but it's like, hey, if we do this, then it's just as impactful and not as crazy. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. And for us, it was just what can we control a little bit. And so for us, we were just like focused on especially counterattacks and defensive side of things. And so we were like, all right, well, attack wise, we're going to do what we do and it's fine. But okay, how can we be a little bit more stable defensively than maybe we're being set up for, or how we see things? And it's just to get results, right? You want to win and you want to play well and do well. And so it's our butts on the line out there if we're giving up 4 goals. So we're gonna do what we have to do to make sure that that's not happening. So yeah, just controlling little things about, hey, telling Leandro not to go up for crosses when the right back's crossing the ball and he's playing left center back, and maybe having the wing back on the other side hang out every now and then, or just adjusting a little bit based off the opponent. But if the coach's tactics start working like they did with Tata, then you get more buy-in, then you get more belief, then you get, okay, I can see how this can work. And it takes a little bit of time, right? But if it's a huge change at the beginning, it's difficult for players that have played one way for a long time to say, oh yeah, let's just go do this. That'll be fine. Versus like, oh shoot, let's see if it's going to be fine.
I was going to say, I don't think shoot was the word that you were using, but nevertheless, it's just, I wonder about that adjustment period and trying to find the happy middle ground. It's like, we've been around the block. We know what you're saying, but we can also do this, and do this. And because if you're a younger player and you're in a situation like that, you don't want to upset the apple cart. You want to, it's like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Right at it, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And then you're in lockstep and everything, because, it could affect your playing time. I mean, it's a balance from the younger players that want to listen and learn and implement, and the veterans that listen and learn and implement, but implement with a twist. So the message is still getting out there and the result is still the same. It might be a little different just because of the exposure and the experience that you guys had out there in the first place.
Totally. And I think that as you become more of a veteran, and even for youth players, as you play with a coach for more often, or you get a little bit more experience, right? There's a way that your coach wants you to play before the game starts. But then when the game starts and until halftime, there's very little coaching that can change things on the field, right? And so players have to take the initiative to change things if you're getting punched in the face, especially repeatedly. Right? You can't just assume, okay, let's just keep doing it and it'll eventually work out. No, it won't, right? You need to adjust. And like, for example, with Greg Berhalter in Columbus, right? He wanted us to play out of the back all the time, every time. But there were certain situations where it was like, okay, hey guys, we're going to step up to midfield and have the goalie kick it as far as he can. And we're going to kick the ball into the other half. And we're going to go play over there for a few minutes and chill out, and then maybe we'll get back to what we're doing here. But we need to reset. And same thing under Tata. Like, yeah, I know that we want to play out of the back, but you know what? I'm going to kick this ball long for a little bit because I'm sick of us playing in our half of the field, and like little things like that where it's like, you're not disregarding completely the game plan, but you're adapting because you see things on the field and you are in it.
I need a breather. I need to blow. I'm going to kick this long for a minute. It's just, I'm going to go that way, and I'm going to catch my breath for a second. Generationally, and this is something that you've been kind of alluding to here in our conversation this morning, are the younger players today, is their BS meter lower than it was when, we were, learning the game? Do they sit there and, if somebody's yelling at me these days, I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever, great. You can yell at me all day long. I either feel like I know what's going on. I know what you're saying. You don't have to yell at me, these kinds of things. How different is the intake with your mentees than it would be with, say, folks that are your age or slightly younger than you? Is the intake different? Is the BS meter less? Is the BS meter higher or lower? What about mentees these days?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's and like everything, it depends on the personality of the player. But it's I think in general, younger players still listen to their coaches. The coaches have a huge influence, and hopefully that's a good thing. There are definitely some individuals who, regardless of the coach, are going to go out there and do their own thing. But I think that for the most part, they are listening to their coach and trying to implement what they from the sideline are saying. And that's why it can be challenging, right? Especially if that coach is a yeller and yelling at you about mistakes, because then you get out there and you're afraid to make mistakes because you don't want to get yelled at.
Right.
And so that's a tough way to play. And you'd think that coaches would see that and understand that. But for some reason, they all don't.
Well, I mean, I would think that the ego of that coach plays into this too. It's like, well, I have this dossier of success in my brain, and I've won this trophy. I've won this Miss Congeniality trophy for finishing third in our division. 18 years ago, and so obviously what I do works. And I would think that ego plays into it from the ego of the superior of the individual in power. I was about to say superior. Sometimes they're not, but the coach on the sideline, the administrator on the sideline, because they have this history of success. It's like, well, yes, obviously it works. And then you'll have folks these days who might sit there and go, really? That works? No, it's just, there are times I would think that adults, and we've had this talk too, where adults sometimes just kind of need to dial it back and listen more instead of sitting there and just yelling and ranting and raving and poking fingers and going, this is the way, and let it be a two-way street with, some just at least listening, even if the feedback isn't taken in, at least just take the effort to listen to what's coming back at you instead of just saying my way or the highway, because that doesn't work all the time.
Rarely. Rarely does it work. No, for sure. I mean,
fine, it's my way or you're not playing. But we get that. I mean, you get managers who are this way in different sports. It's like, you're going to do it my way or you ain't playing. And then, then you sit, and it's just it. I would think that it would drive folks crazy where you see a better pathway, and that position, an individual in a position of power doesn't. And it affects everything it affects everything downstream, and it just it doesn't do anything that's better.
And again, I don't think most of these coaches are coming from a place of trying to belittle kids or be mean or anything, right? They're just usually what I see is they're so competitive, and they've got the juices flowing, and they can't help themselves. So they need to figure out how they can channel their aggression and hype for the game into a better way. But yeah, no, I mean, anytime the best leaders are good listeners for sure, and it goes into parenting and leadership and coaching and everything, right? And it's one thing to listen and then do what the kid wants, but it's another thing to just get their respect a little bit. Yeah, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, but here's why I think differently, here's why I see it differently. And I think if coaches explain that stuff sometimes, it goes a little bit longer of a way. Okay, I understand now why we're doing something, rather than this is just what we're doing.
Hey, Dad, I think I should take the car out this weekend.
Yeah,
And yes, I hear you. I understand your point of view. The answer is still no.
exactly.
About another 10 minutes or so with Michael Parkhurst, our mogul in training at MF Parkhurst on the 280 character app and Beyond Goals Mentoring, where we go completely and totally sideways because there'll be an entry point every single time that you and Greg come on with the Friday free kick, and then it literally is like bumper cars every single time that you're on, and I will tell you each and every time that you come on for putting up with all of these right turns and all of this chaos that goes through my brain and comes out the other side. I cannot thank you and Greg enough for doing this kind of stuff. Rhode Island FC question from Bart Keeler. What are the chances of Rhode Island FC bidding to host a national team match after Tidewater Landing is complete? RIFC is mentioned in the next episode of the Soccer for US podcast.
Nice. Unfortunately, very low.
What?
Well, the men don't play on turf, and I don't think the women play on turf. I don't know that for sure, but I would highly doubt they do. And I don't think that our stadium size, it's a 10,500 seat stadium. I don't know if the cost to bring in the grass over the turf and bring a team in and that type of stuff, it would make sense for us. So unfortunately, probably pretty low. But we are definitely looking at other opportunities. We're going to fill that stadium as much as we can with different events and sports and opportunities and teams. So there'll be a lot going on other than Rhode Island FC. Rhode Island FC obviously is number one, but there will be a lot. I don't think that the national team, though, would take us.
Well, Bart's like, yeah, I'll buy a square side.
I appreciate it, Bart.
Well, then, let me ask you this, and this might be crossing the streams and drawing the ire of some nationalist folks, but do you have Jesse Marsh's phone number in your Rolodex?
I used to,
because going from say Toronto and the sponsored stewardship that the tenured professorship that Jesse Marsh has now with that national team to the north of us. It's not. I mean, shoot, in COVID, Toronto FC played in Hartford or at Pratt and Whitney. So playing in Connecticut is not something completely and totally foreign to Toronto FC. So maybe if you talk to the folks at the Maple Leaf, hey, Jesse, do you want to have a friendly against Azerbaijan at Tidewater Landing? Something like that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's true.
And we all did get our recent email to purchase season tickets for Tidewater Landing. By the way, that has made its way down here to the south. Since we're here, what's the latest on Tidewater Landing? Where are things?
Coming along well. We are definitely happy that the port is back up and running, and so that will not delay anything. But we've got seats in the stadium, not all of them yet, but we do have seats in the stadium, so that's nice. And I think that the email campaign or the season ticket campaign has started, and they've got this cool virtual thing where you can kind of see each section and what the stadium looks like or what it will look like and what your seat, the view and all that stuff. So that's exciting. We're definitely obviously gearing up for 25 while we're keeping a close eye on 24 because we've got some playoff aspirations here.
Why, yes, you do. And considering where things currently stand, where the draws have turned into wins, and that reminds me, I still need to catch up with Thomas in media relations, or perhaps the mogul in training, and figure out how to get Kano on the show. Right now, you're a part of the chaos in the second chase group in the Eastern Conference, where it's like Lou City and then everybody else. And then Charleston is right now in second, 11 points to the chase group. Detroit City at 48, Tampa Bay at 46, Indy 11, 12 wins, and a match in hand on somebody called Rhode Island FC, both at 43 points. You've won 3 of your last 5, and you have a point on Legion, and you've got 5 on Loudoun. You have 6 below the playoff bar with Hartford Athletic, and 9th place in 37 points. So there is a little bit of space right now for Rhode Island FC in the postseason, but it would be an opening round matchup, if I'm not mistaken, against Le Rouge at Keyworth, and that's always a fun place to play because they're right on top of you and they throw things at you and there's smoke bombs and all these kinds of things. Maybe it's not a lighted firecracker, mind you, and it's also outdoors, but
Yeah.
it is a rough place to play.
It would. The Parkhurst family wouldn't mind it because it's a nice little drive, but it wouldn't be the best venue for us to play. Yeah, you're right. It is tough to play there. Some of these turf fields aren't in the best condition, and they make it challenging, right? Detroit's one of those, and
yes,
and Pittsburgh's one of them.
Yes.
So, hey, but that's what makes it unique, and that's what makes it fun and challenging. So, we'll see. But we've got 4 games left. I think if we get 3 out of 4 wins, we could sneak into the top 4.
Ooh.
But if we go 2-2, I think that we will finish in the top 6.
And I mean, that would be very, very cool for our resident part of the ownership group. And besides, hey, we know a playoff owner. Hey, we got him on speed dial. We can have him come on a Friday and talk about things. When it comes to the pressure of accomplishment, since we're talking playoffs, when it comes to your mentees and the pressure that's attached to doing well, and it's almost like the scene in Breakfast Club, when they're in the library and Emilio Estevez's character Andrew is talking about all the pressure from the parents and everything. When it comes to pressure and succeeding and trying to do your best, what kind of feedback do you get from mentees about external pressure, where they're just trying to do as best they can, enjoy what's going on, and what happens, and if they succeed and continue to succeed more over time, that's great. But do they talk about external pressures with you and Greg a lot, and about how difficult it may or may not be to handle these kinds of things?
Yeah, they do. And I think a lot of it is when they're going through the college recruitment process, and they know that there's scouts at games, or if they're players that want to get to a new team and they know that sometimes they're being watched. So it's usually goes along with aspirations to get to the next level, to take that next jump. That would be the biggest pressure induced, for sure, that we've come across with our mentees.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other players that just feel pressure to play well because those players usually don't say why, but it's usually because they don't want to let the team down, they don't want to let coach down, they don't want to let mom and dad down,
right.
And they just want to win, because not because they don't see the value of losing, but nobody wants to lose.
Yeah. Before you get out of here, what's going on with Beyond Goals Mentoring these days?
We've had 2 really crazy busy months, so it's been great. No, it's been really, really good, and we're trying to get more content up there on the website with blogs and different topics that people come to us just to try to spread more information. One of the things I'm working on, John, is a book list for players, but also coaches / parents. So putting one together, because a couple of people have asked me about that. So I was like, it's time for me to do some more work here.
Do you do the blogging? I mean, do you formulate these kinds of thoughts, or do you have guest bloggers or things like that? Do you do some of the blogging yourself?
We do. Yeah, a lot of the stuff Greg and I come up with ourselves. We do have a marketing group that we've just recently started working with. They help us out with some of the blogs and some of the ideas. And then Greg and I will write down, usually we'll write down either the whole blog, or we'll write down like our main ideas, and they'll spruce it up from there.
Because I was going to say, when it comes to finding your voice, when it comes to writing, how are you in finding your voice?
Good. I've always enjoyed writing. I actually, very early in my career, I did some guest writing for ESPN, but that was a long time ago. But I've always enjoyed writing.
Okay. Then one more question before you get out of here, other than getting ready for Tampa Bay at Byrne this weekend. Question from Four Card: do Shield winners get championship rings?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of, but I never did win the Shield, so I don't know for
Well,
sure, but I don't think so.
I mean, that might have to do with the comment that was put on your social media recently about
Yeah, I know.
stars on jerseys and winning shields and things like that.
It's always a fun conversation.
Yeah, so the Captain America shield, that means so much when it comes to the end of the season and who wins a trophy. Cap, as always, thanks for dropping by. It's great to pick your brain. It's great to find out what's going on in all these different aspects of your life. And next time you drop in, it'll be postseason time. We'll talk about postseasons, not making postseasons, what to do, how to improve, all those kinds of things. And we'll just keep right on rocking and rolling. Love what you and Greg are doing, and thanks for putting up with my questions on a weekly basis.
Thanks for having me, John. Have a
All
great
right.
weekend.
You too. That's some guy named Michael Parker. He's a mogul in training, by the way. It is 10 o'clock, and so it's after. Well, technically it's 10:01, and so I'm going to bring in Tyler since I was, since I was like all of the 4 wins on Wednesday. Your traditional visit ended up going by the wayside, and so you have graciously. After I commandeered you and hogtied you in the midweek Wednesday night to figure out, can you come on Friday? And you're like, yeah, sure. And so your Wednesday has turned into a Friday this week.
Yeah, and I once again get to follow up from Michael Parker. So, not like big shoes or anything.
Oh, but I mean, and there's nothing wrong with batting fifth. If he's your cleanup hitter, then
hey, I'm swinging for the fences. I don't care.
Yeah, so it's all good. So the same question for you: do Shield winners get championship rings?
Who cares?
4Card says it's a serving tray. It is. It literally is like the Captain America shield. Literally.
Yeah.
Miami fans may never get to hold it because none of their supporters groups are members of the ISC. I heard about that. There's
Yeah.
like 4 supporters groups, and none of them are a part of the ISC. So that's that got a big harumph from a lot of folks coming in this week. You and the folks at Scarves and Spikes, you guys have had a busy week. It's like you're on, you're off, you're on. It's a game day. You're on, you're off. You're all over the place this week. It's like I'm trying to really grind your voice into the ground with all these appearances and shows that you guys are having over at SNS, and I drag you in first thing on a Friday morning to see what's going on to kick off hour number 2. Oh, what's the mug and what's in it, by the way?
I was gonna say that's actually what the coffee's for. So mug, Scarves and Spikes mug.
Attaboy. Excellent plug. Nicely done.
So I don't know. I just I normally don't drink coffee actually with sugar anymore. Like I stopped a while back. Threw some sugar in here this morning just for that extra little kick.
Okay.
Just to help get me through the week.
Okay. I'm down with OPP. I mean, I'm there, and so I completely understand what's going on. Now that you've had a couple days to kind of digest everything, what's been the vibe other than disappointment / anger / consternation from everybody that's been watching and listening and hanging out with you guys at SNS? Am I pretty much there when it comes to all of the emotional curves that are there for Atlanta United followers, fans, etc.?
Yeah, I think folks are just disappointed. The locker room, I think, echoed that sentiment a lot. And it was one of those things where, you have hope until you can't anymore. And right now, I mean, yeah, mathematically, there is still a possibility, but don't ask me to do the math, but I think it's down there below 5%.
Yeah. But I mean, hey, you sit there and you still go. And until you don't go, then, you just keep trying to plug away at it, because pretty much every result ahead of you didn't hurt you. Short of the Montreal giving themselves some space in the 8, everybody else didn't do what they needed to do to solidify a space going forward here into either 2 or 3 or 1 match to go in the 2024 season. Everybody helped you out when it came to doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so frustrating is you just didn't help yourself out, right? Like you're at home. I get that it's Joseph, and I will say Look, if anybody's going to knock Atlanta or all but knock Atlanta out of the playoffs, it's only fitting and slightly poetic and whatever other word you want to put in here, that is Joseph Martinez. Also, for all the people that showed up to the bins that day, I'm glad you got to see Joseph score in the bins and not somebody random.
Yeah.
At least let it be Joseph.
Some rando like Pierre. Yeah.
Apoku, I'm looking at you now.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think you just didn't do yourself any favors, right? Like everything else really went your way. We were kind of in the beginning keeping an eye on the scoreboard, and things were looking very positive for Atlanta. And then you go into the half, right? And you've got a little bit of momentum. You scored the goal, getting close to going in the half. And then you just couldn't put it away. You couldn't put it away. And, Joseph, that second goal, that's vintage Joseph to a T. Like, you give him a slight opportunity in the box like that.
Yep.
And it felt like the Julian Gressel to Joseph connection that we've seen so many times in the bins, except not Julian Gressel coming from the other side. But no, I mean, just a lot of disappointment from folks, somber. And, we talked about it on the show last night. Just the locker room last night or on Wednesday was just very down. And I know you were in there with Rob as well. Just it feels like a lot of folks are at the point where they just don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you run out of things to say. It's like if things continue to go on and on and on, what is it that they say? Having to do with repeated results, doing the same thing over and over again, and anticipating a different result is something in there that's like it doesn't happen or whatever.
The definition of insanity.
Thank you. Definition of insanity: doing something over and over again and anticipating a different result. Yep. Alex, he says, y'all are a bunch of sickos. No, it's sickos committee. No desire or preference for Joseph to be the one to score. I mean, there are those, and Joseph, to his credit, this time did not celebrate. Last time out, he celebrated. And I would thought that would have stuck with a lot of folks, that he celebrated last time he was here. This time he did not. It was interesting to see the dichotomy this time around with Joseph and the lack of a celebration. And there were the videos that CF Montreal put out there and all this kind of stuff. So it was an interesting dichotomy with this version of Joseph as opposed to the other version of Joseph when he was with Messi and friends trying to make sure, Mr. Messi, is your seat warm enough? Do you need an aperitif? Do you need some with your cafe? Do you need whatever?
Can I bring you a latte?
Yes. Can I bring you a latte for Mr. Beckham, sir? One of the it was a different Joseph vibe. But I mean, it was, like I said, it was a different Joseph vibe. And for Joseph to possibly be the one to take your point and go 180 degrees with it, for Joseph to end up being the one that might be the individual that knocks Atlanta out when you needed a result. The irony there isn't lost on a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe it eases the blow a little bit. But it's one of those things where the team has had opportunities. They've had control of their own destiny now, for a while. I mean, obviously you could say that about every team through the whole season, but as it got closer to the end of the season, things were looking somewhat probable that you still made the playoffs. You just had to win a few games.
Right.
And you just haven't been able to do that. And so, yeah, I mean, to get to the point where you're backed against a wall and then, Joseph comes in with the dagger. I mean, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But Joseph, to his credit, yeah, I mean, he runs around wearing number 17, which I get that was his number well before Atlanta as well. But also, I think there's something absolutely about the fact that he chose to wear that number still up there. When we were in there talking with Rob, and when we went to the Atlanta United locker room, Sydney actually went to go talk to Joseph, and he did an article over on scarversandspikes.com.
Mm-hmm.
And but when I got back up to the press box that night and we were getting ready to record our 3 takeaways video, the first thing he said was, it just seems like Joseph is like at peace.
Okay.
And he talked to him and said, I have nothing but love for this city, more than anything, but I have to fight for the colors that I'm wearing. And I mean, that's the job, right? Like that's what you're getting paid to do. So there's no hard feelings. But it does seem like he's kind of moved past everything, at least according, to kind of the vibe that Sydney got from him. So wish him the best, obviously, always have. And if he has moved on and he's not, upset about the way things went down, then, more power to him. Because if we're being honest, this team and this entire club is totally different than what it was the last time Joseph wore a Atlanta jersey.
And David, to the point, and Bart, your comment I do want to circle back to as a part of this. David says, failing to finish chances early being something that dooms him late. Saba miss off the post falls in the category. Joseph gets his bad angle touch and Saba misses. So, but there were chances for Atlanta United, and this is something that's occurred all season long. The missed opportunities, the shots that hit the post, the saves, the pass that should have been taken as opposed to hanging on to a ball. And Rob mentioned that in the post-match press conference too. There were a couple of looks where the pass would have been the play as opposed to hanging on to it and attempting a shot that gets either blocked or saved or what have you. But yeah, but yes, Saba's opportunity, Saba's miss off the post. You have literally we could probably sit there and go through all the matches and go, okay, here, and here. And it will be a laundry list of missed opportunities for the club in putting the ball in the back of the net this season.
Yeah. And, Saba specifically has got to be the unluckiest guy on the planet. Like, I put up a meme or a GIF during the middle of the match after he hit the crossbar again or the woodwork again. And it was just like, Saba and the woodwork, they just hate each other. Like, they cannot stand. It's been so many times this season where he's come so close. And, for him to still be your leading playmaker, essentially, in terms of numbers is astounding. And you just think of like what could have been.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the season. I mean, there's so many aspects of the season where it was so close. It was so close. You had the finest of margins, whether defensively or offensively. Lately, it's been offensively, to where you could have squeezed out another 3 or 6 points and we would be having a totally different conversation. And that's what's so frustrating about it, is it's not like you're, 15 points below the playoff line.
Mm-hmm.
You've been right there on the edge for a month and a half, and you just didn't go your way.
And you have leads that are lost, giving up the first goal once again. Tell me if you've heard this before. You give up the first goal, you come back and fight, and then something else happens. It either ends up being a draw or it ends up being a win the other way. So there are a lot of different things, and the postmortem and the analysis of this season, whenever it ends, it's going to have a lot of these topics that are going to be discussed. And our friends at Spot Track are going to let us know about salaries and the 9 players that are at the end of their contracts or have options that could or could not be picked up after the calendar year is over. And there is going to be a tremendous amount of decisions that will be made by the Garth Lagerwey led, at the moment, front office, and how this is going to go forward. And one of the things that will always stick with me, and especially, and literally, if you mention to Jarrett, Pedro Amador, if you mention Pedro Amador to Jarrett, yeah, there you go. Finish. You're going to get you need like round 2, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know.
Sticking up for teammates. That is something I think that, and being there as a part of a collective, I think that is going to be something that a lot of folks inside the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground, inside that locker room, outside, those of us that cover it and watch it on a daily basis, being there for your teammates, I think, is going to be something that will be thought of and heartfelt and thought about a lot in the postseason and then the offseason.
It's a culture thing in a way. Like, unless you're being explicitly told not to, go potentially get a yellow or whatever, there's no reason to not go in on some of the players that have put in these really bad challenges lately. And yeah, I mean, Pedro Amador is like the most egregious one, but I've kind of been pointing it out to like Sydney and Henry and folks in the press box, like over the past few matches where somebody goes down, an Atlanta player goes down, and the only one running over there is Brad. And I understand he's the captain, but we know that's not just because he's captain. That's Brad.
Yeah.
Where is everybody else? And that's just one part of the report card, I think. At the end of the day,
Plays well with others.
Yeah. But like, show some a-hole at some point. Like
testicular fortitude.
Yes, absolutely. And show the fans like you're at home. You're at home and you're not playing well at home, like much less away. You got to give the fans something to hold on to. And I've been saying that for a while now, like with the front office and the way things are going, like fans just admittedly aren't very excited about the team. And the best way that you can kind of drum up a little bit of something is to give the fans something to hold on to. And that has to come ultimately from the pitch. It has to be the players going out there and showing that they're fighting for the badge. And that doesn't always mean, running 7.5 miles in a match and just running yourself into the ground. Like that's great, 100%. But you got to show some personality, some attitude. And I just don't see that right now. I don't. Like I see, there's complaints when a play or a foul doesn't go your way, things like that. But I don't see the swag, I guess.
Yeah.
And the chemistry is it feels non-existent. And Rob even said it in the press conference. He said, I see the same thing that y'all do, and I feel the way y'all do about how it feels like the team comes out flat all the time.
Yeah.
And for him to say that now, I mean, I wish he had an answer for it, but nobody seems to have an
answer.
Well,
but there's only so much that a coach in any situation like that can do. You and your staff can get a team prepared for a match that is as important as these matches are. And then when the team goes out and does not perform and match the level of expectation, self-expectation, and the level that, they feel that they should be meeting if they're going to be chasing after, 3 points, playoff spot, all those kinds of factors, then there's only, what is it? We talked about it, the definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing over and over again and anticipating a different result. There's only so many times that you can sit there and hope that you're giving the message and getting the message across, and you hope that the players are listening. And then it comes to the implementation of that message. There's only so many times. It's like a coach cannot be an eligible player.
Yep.
And be out there and go, well, this is what I'm, and like the conversation we were having with Michael Parkhurst, where a coach can tell you something, and then you have the players out there that'll sit there and they'll tweak the message out there because they're the ones out there adjusting. And it's like, we're the ones playing. Okay, so let's adjust this, and this. A coach is not out there to help you adjust to do this, and this. You get all of this, and you get this from coaches. They're not out there doing that same thing because, they have to stay in their dotted space. So there's only so much that a coach can do. Ultimately, it comes down to the players and their performance on the field on a game by game basis.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really, really frustrating from the players' perspective. And then of course from the fans, because you see like, up in the stands, you watch the team play lately, especially, and now it doesn't necessarily feel like they have an identity. They are trying new things. Like credit to Rob. He put Jay Fortune on the left wing, like changing things around. Like there's things that are being done to just not do the same thing over and over again. Right. But it just feels like more and more, it's just a mentality thing. And that's very tough to fix. That's very tough to fix because you have to identify what the actual problem is first, and then come up with a way to fix it. But it doesn't feel like anybody has really determined like what the problem is. Like we can say chemistry, we can say mentality. We can say all those words all day, but there's something specific that somebody is going to have to find and nail it down and remove it and start building back, a culture of truly winning, not just playing to not lose.
Doug Robertson of the AJC is saying that he does not see Shande Silva out at practice this morning, getting ready for Red Bulls coming up this weekend for the last home match of the season for Atlanta United. David's fan impression, mostly frustration, belief we certainly should be getting more out of the group than we do. It's not they're just bad, but more we're flat or just finding new ways to lose. And other guys like Tristan and Shande who flashed when they've arrived and have not just reemerged. And Shande and Jamal, they have not been healthy 100% of the time. And then you're trying to regain the form you had when you were healthy, and that takes time. And with urgency in a situation, there are all these things that snowball in trying to regain what you had. And it's not something where you can flip a switch and it's like, okay, I'm on, I'm off, I'm off, I'm on, I can get it all back. It takes growing back into the situation because of the lingering issues that are attached to an injury, the probably the internal concern that you have as an athlete about getting back to form, not wanting to press, but you feel like you have to press and help out your team, all these different kinds of things that are there. Bart, let me get to Bart's point. Bart wants to know if he's a bad fan by wanting the team to miss the playoffs, so there's no pretense of success when evaluating individual performances this year for end-of-year roster decisions and transfer market. Bart, I would say this. Bart, as a fan of West Virginia football, and Bart is he's West Virginia, Lenore-Rhine, so take your pick, either Division II playoffs or Division I college football. I think even if you finish 6-6, you want the bowl game so you can sit there and gauge how you are in a college football sense. I think you want that bowl game to get those extra practices, to see what it looks like leading into next season. I think that in other sports, you want to be the 8th seed, as Jared has said and has mentioned to everybody here repeatedly. Stanley Cup champion 2012 Los Angeles Kings, 8th seed, and got a goalie in Jonathan Quick that was on a heater. And it was 4-4-4, beat the Rangers, win a Stanley Cup. You don't know until you get in. That's how I look at it when it comes to I want a team to get into a playoff just so I can get those extra practices, just so I can see what you got, just so I can continue to further evaluate instead of having have the garage door shut on a season. What about what Bart said? Let me put it back up here for you, Tyler. That's Bart about getting into the postseason. What about you?
I mean, I don't think you're a bad fan, Bart. Because there are thousands of other people that feel the same way you do. I think what John is saying, absolutely, you have to try to get in and just see where it goes, because that is the one, positive or negative, depending on who you ask about MLS. It's a different playoff format. It's an American playoff format. And so there is always that very, very small belief that you can get in and have just a dream run. But I said it last night, and if I am Garth Lagerwey, I'm going to the team, every first team player, before this match tomorrow, and telling them this is essentially a job interview. The next few games.
I would think that it has been for a while.
I mean, it should have been. But it just feels like that message is not like you would think that if the players really felt that, then you wouldn't be having the same mistakes and that's the same things going on that you have right now. And I mean, I know it's a hard place for the players because I know they're trying. I've come on here and I've tried to make sure that is understood. And I know y'all have as well. Like, I know it's not that they're just like punting the season or giving up. Like, I know they're trying, but morale is a heck of a thing. And if your morale is not there in your job, you might be able to go do the job, but you're probably not going to do it as well as you could. Yeah. And that's kind of like where we're at right now. And so you've got to find, as a professional, you've got to find a way to dig deep and self-motivate. And if you can't, and your boss telling you essentially that you might not have a job. We're going to find a way to rebuild everything. If that doesn't do it for you either, then you really don't have any business wearing the shirt. And I'm not saying anybody specific. I don't know that that's how the players feel, but I know how the fans feel, and I know how it looks out there on the pitch. And that's the only thing I can come up with is do you want to be a part of next year and this, as Henry said, the redemption arc, or do we need to move on from you?
And I think that a part of this, and this is something that we've talked about a lot here, is the youth that is available to Atlanta United, whether it's twos, cup of coffee players have been first team, second team. You have the academy guys that are growing and will have another season under their belt. There's a lot of promise. And Bart, to your point about extra practices, substitute players, and players who've proven who they are, the continued reps for me give me an opportunity to sit there and continue to look at folks like Noah Cobb in a practice situation, Efren Morales in a practice situation, Matt Edwards, Jaden Hibbert, Jay Fortune, to continue to see what he's got. Aiden Torres as he continues to go. Yeah, I mentioned a lot of kids, but for me, I think it's beneficial for those younger players, whether they're twos or first team contract or what have you. Jacob Williams, maybe a Javi Armas or a Noble Okello or a Kareem Tamimi. A lot of the folks that we've seen with the twos to continue to interact with those first team players to see how they are. Like I said, if there's somebody, and I am not casting an aspersion, I'm just saying that if you are at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground and you are looking at Luke Brennan, thank you, Abby. Excellent pickup there too. If you're looking at folks, whether it's Atlanta United 2 roster and with what Steve Cook and Louis Sharp and Jose Silva, what they've done, you get those guys, you have them go into the same situation and practice against the first team. You get to see those. Alan Carlton, another one that is there. Literally, I could literally run down the roster of the twos, and I could tell you, hell, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to do it right now. I mean, I got to get around my razzles and my charms, blow pops and everything.
Is that a piano?
Yeah, it's a piano.
I did not know that this entire time. I've not known that was a piano sitting behind you.
Yeah, the boss plays piano.
I like that. That's awesome.
Okay, so all right, so let's take a peek at this. Efren Morales, Aiden Torres, Noah Cobb, and I'm just running down the list. Efren Morales, Aiden Torres, Noah Cobb, Luke Brennan, Firmino, Ramsey Kawasmi with what he's been able to do at the back, Ethan Dudley coming from Florida Gulf Coast, inserting himself into the back line, Alan Carlton, Noble, Rodrigo Neri, who got a call up to the U20s recently, Matt Edwards, Cooper Sanchez, probably a couple of years away with academy time, but still seeing what you got with Cooper, Matthew DeJaney still with the academy, Dominic Chong-Kui, who at the age of 16, DCQ has put in quality work on the left-hand side. You've got Eric Centeno as he recovers from his ankle injury, Matias Gajardo with what we've seen from him in the middle, Stephen Herlock with his time, Ashton Gordon with what we've seen from him. You've got Hadley with the academy, Jacob Williams, Javi Armas, Caden Moore, Kareem Tamimi, Jaden Hibbert in net, who is a story in and of himself. So how many dudes did we just name off in like 30 seconds?
Like 18?
Yeah, and so to have those players interacting and a part of the first team practice schedule, that's why, as a part of being with the first team guys getting those extra practices, I want to see how these dudes interact with that group. So that's why I'm looking for more practices. Even if at the end of, even at the end of the day, you get in as a 9, you're playing an 8, you still get extra reps with everybody who's here. So Bart, I guess that was my larger point. David, I know that you and I will disagree on Ronald Hernandez completely. I would go and read the article that was done at soccerdownhere.net about Ronald Hernandez. I know we'll disagree about Ronald. Luis Abram, David wants to free up international spots. Morales, Cobb, Edwards serve as depth, free up international spots. More of a difference makes sense. See, so that's why we ran through that list of a lot of dudes who are in the pipeline and are coming. I want to see how they interact with the first team. I mean, go back to Behind the Stripes. And was it the second episode? Was it the Cincinnati loss?
Yep.
Who was it that spoke up? Dax and Noah Cobb.
Yep.
That's what you're staring at.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at with these extra reps and these extra practices. Get me in as a 9 and show me what you can do. I want those extra reps, period. That's why.
Yeah. And
it's like I said, does that make sense? Did that make any sense?
no, 100%. And I think, I think the argument is always going to be, well, they've had all season, which I get. But at the end of the day, like all those guys that you named, they can't have enough reps, especially the ones that have done so well when called upon this year, which is really all of them. If we're being honest, I mean, there really isn't a guy with the twos that has come up and put in first team minutes that hasn't done pretty well.
Go to the Open Cup game against Charleston.
Yeah.
Shining example. Go watch that and that rotated side that was in there that got the win in Charleston in a gut check game. All the names that were attached to that win.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that was an interesting one as well. But I remember I was, because I was actually there getting destroyed by the sand gnats.
Yes, and the sun, yeah.
Yeah. But Jay Fortune was injured at the time, and he was sitting right in front of me. And the relationship and the chemistry that he had, cheering on the guys that he's put in time with the twos, and just being around that group was refreshing. And that it's another thing going back to what we talked about earlier. It's something that you have to see. You have to see that kind of camaraderie that I don't think you see a lot of with a lot of the folks on the first team. Not that has anything to do with the training reps or anything, but I just think it's another example of the folks coming up through the system are really on the right path. And right now the first team is just really struggling with what feels like a broken system, and it has to be fixed.
And Bart's like, got it. So we need extra reps for all the players who aren't actually on the team. So the first team players who've proven they're not good enough can pretend they've achieved a goal of the playoffs. Bart's on fire this morning. I would play until you can't play anymore. If that means that you don't get into a postseason, you've done what you've done. You don't get in, you don't get in. You play until you don't play anymore. If it means you get in and the math works, you're a 9, you get in, you find out what happens there. Just play until you don't play anymore. That's what I'm looking at here.
And I mean, I think Garth is a smart enough guy to look at if the scenario plays out where suddenly you make it to the playoffs after these last 2 games, regardless of who plays, I think Garth is smart enough to just look at the overall season and say, all right, well, the young guys, every time they were out on the field, they were hungry. They left it all out there, and they did everything they had to do. Mistakes, which is fine, but they played far beyond their years, and they did really well. And I think you can look at some of the players that are consistently getting time with the first team, and you say, all right, well, where was the effectiveness, and where were you when we had 5 must-win games near the end of the season? Like, why was the effectiveness not there? I just think, again, it's a report card, and you're looking at individual players, and I think Garth is smart enough to look and say, all right, well, yeah, just because they squeaked in, if they do, there are 34 games overall that we have to look at and say, well, this was how it all played out ultimately. It's not going to come down to the 2 games.
Hi, Jarrett.
Hey, John.
Tyler and I are discussing the idea of playing until you can't play no more, and if it turns into the idea of getting a lot of the folks that we've seen either at the academy level or the twos level, getting them to continue to interact with the first team players and see where things stand with them, I'm all for it. And I literally ran through the list of all of the dudes that have gotten major minutes this year with Atlanta United 2 as a part of this whole process, to see them and how they interact with first team guys that are going to be around next season.
Look, there's a lot of decisions that got to get made on that front.
No doubt.
You got a lot of the guys who were brought in on the twos are on like 1-year deals. Like Noble Kello, 1-year deal. Javi Armas played every damn minute for the twos. You got decisions to make there. You have decisions to make for the first team. Like I said yesterday, though, man, like at the risk of it sounding too dramatic, because I don't mean it to, even though I don't know how to make it not sound dramatic.
Right.
If you can't come out into this game tomorrow night with your hair on fire, with, you know, basically like Billy at the beginning of the third act of Predator, where he stands on the log and cuts his chest open and waits for the predator. If you can't come out there like that, you're making my decisions a little bit easier when it comes to off-season roster decisions. Because I know Garth had said when Gonzalo Pineda was fired that everybody's job's on the table. Obviously, we saw that with Carlos Bocanegra being let go as well. I'm sure it goes deep in the organization, but that should go for players as well. There's a world market for this sport, and if you don't fight for the badge, I will find someone who will.
Mm-hmm.
So show me something tomorrow night, and show me what you got against a rival. And buddy, it's always a rival.
And Bart getting okay, and so and Jared, I'll let you tackle this one. Bart says it's worth noting the Twos finished 13th to 15th in the East in MLS Next Pro.
Correct.
But okay.
They weren't good enough. Like, you call it whatever you want. You can phrase it however you want. They weren't good enough. They dropped points when they shouldn't have. You go back to the Orlando game where they up a man, gave up 2 goals while up a man.
Yep.
In 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't good enough. They're talented players on that team. Javi Armas gonna have a damn good career for himself. I don't know if it's in MLS. I don't know if he's fast enough, like foot speed fast enough for MLS day in day out.
See,
he's
Jared,
gonna play somewhere.
Jared is staring at flora and fauna here as he's becoming one with
a bird.
So you're in your happy place.
A bird landed above my head. I can't do anything about that. But like, I don't know where Javi plays.
Yeah,
Javi gonna play somewhere though. But you have talented players there. Like, Neri is a hell of a lottery ticket to pick up. You picked him up halfway through the season, but it didn't come together until too late in the season. And it's the second season you've done that. So what do you do to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's tough because guys are training with the first team. There's very little consistency in twos training because guys are getting pulled into national team duty. They're getting pulled into, when they're academy guys, tournaments around God knows where. Some of them are training with the first team, like we saw like last year, when before Jay Fortune was trying to make himself a staple in the first team last year. He was training with the first team consistently. And he's going to be training with the first team more often than not. Like, this is a chance for them to show what they got. It's tough, but they got to figure out something.
Yeah,
because we've seen, and it's similar to the first team, not identical, that I wouldn't be as disappointed if I wasn't sure that there's better in there because they've shown it. So you got to figure it out for this upcoming year with the twos, how you want to balance that and be consistently good and not have to have these really good runs at the end of the season.
Yep. All right, so let's turn to Red Bulls. It was announced by the team just half a second ago that Lower Bowl 42,000 sold out for the last match of the year on a Saturday. Shows you how many folks also will be keeping an eye. They'll be tailgating, watching what's going on in Athens, not necessarily going because it's probably going to be blowout city. And
that's going to be a snuff film, man.
Yeah, the boss isn't going.
Peyton Thorne's going to need to go into witness protection. Mostly from Hugh Freeze, so Hugh Freeze doesn't throw him under a bus again.
Well, yeah, give it time. Give him another week or so. He'll find a way. When you look at Red Bulls, this is still, Tyler, very Red Bullsian, but with a twist. So it's not quite your older brother's Red Bulls team, but with a healthier Emil Forsberg coming back, got some minutes last time out. I am intrigued to see which version of Red Bulls we get, and if Atlanta United just sits there and turns it into like it was in the playoffs at Red Bull Arena. Tell you what, you can have it. and you guys work from the back. I want to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I think this is where it gets really easy to talk about the tactics between the two teams, right? Because I think fans are looking for more of an internal conversation about the players, kind of like what we've been talking about. What are you going to show me?
Mhm.
What are you going to show out on the pitch when you're wearing this shirt against a team that we hate and have consistently hated, and one could argue is Atlanta's first real rival?
Mhm.
Go win the game. Like, come hell or high water. Doesn't matter what the Red Bulls do. It doesn't matter if they come out and press you high. Yeah, if you've got to sit back and play some shenanigans or whatever, do what you got to do to make some tweaks. But ultimately, the 11 players that Rob picks to be out there on the opening whistle, they need to put on a show for everybody in the bins and for Garth Lagerway.
Mhm. I am intrigued, Jared, as to what this looks like coming out of the blocks for Atlanta United going up against Red Bulls in a mathnasium that is going to be the playoffs between now and 2 weeks from now. Because remember, it is this weekend, international break, where we all get to gnash our teeth and twiddle our thumbs and do math and all these kinds of things during an international window, and then get ready for decision day and find out who's going to be doing what. I am intrigued to see A, what the lineup looks like, and B, they better come out with their proverbial hair on fire in this gotta have 3-point situation.
You're going to know some things going into the window. It's interesting the way the schedule breaks here, because after this game, you have the window, you have a bit of a break. You're going to have some time to think on some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There's the explicit rating for the morning.
Well, you are, because if you don't get it done Saturday,
Yeah.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get 3 points. If you don't get 3 points, probably with some room to spare for comfort, like multi-goal win kind of thing, like, you're done. We're done
Do not pass go. Do
Um,
not collect $200. Do not go to the
here.
post.
Then what does the last game look like? Is it, is it, hey, couple of kids, show me what you got?
Yeah.
Because if we're out of the race, we're out of the race. Show me what you've got. Guys who are on the bubble, show me what you have got.
Mm-hmm.
How it looks for Saturday? No, I mean, to y'all's points, like, I don't know what it's gonna look like. I mean, yeah, like, Red Bull's gonna come out and press you. Red Bull's trying to solidify themselves too, trying to make sure they're in a good spot. Because even if you're in the playoffs, as we saw last year, it's not just about getting into the dance. Like, if you're in a situation like Atlanta, yeah, you just want to get in.
Yeah.
If you're in, you're trying to position yourself in a way that you don't want. For instance, you don't want to be in Atlanta spot last year. We're going to play a first round best of 3 against Columbus. Hell no, I don't want to do that. So those teams who are in have to figure out where are they in, or if they can get in, and you do what you can. But we'll see what it all looks like. I don't know what Saturday night looks like for Atlanta.
Yeah.
Other than Red Bulls might force you to play long. Okay. If Jamal can give you 45 minutes, great, because then I can bring Jamal on in the second half in the 55th minute and tell him, go chase.
Yeah.
Just play fetch. Or I can start the game. If you can give me 45 minutes, start the game. Fetch. And play long.
Mm-hmm.
Or have Rios try and win. There's a couple times in that game against Montreal, Rios won the long ball. Didn't always make the best decision with it. The one that kills me is the second half or the first half, where he is going down on a 1v2 and doesn't play Saba in on the right side. And it's like Tyler is just like,
Tyler's harumphing already.
I tweeted in capital letters right when it happened.
Yeah, it was a lot. And Saba didn't have a great night, but also he is your guy right now as you are constructed.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to, you have to feed him. Even when like he is flipping the spoon, like, and not always hitting the target. This is Monta Ellis territory. You got to let him shoot. he's going full J.R. Smith. You just got to let him shoot and see if he can get the microwave going.
Yo Johnson coming off the bench.
Oh man, I'm like I don't know, Deion Waiters when he was in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Deion Waiters just jacking up threes left and right. Just with absolutely zero conscience. But you might have to play like that at times. Might not be pretty, but you left style in the window, in the rearview mirror a long time ago. At this point, style's over the horizon.
Yep.
So what you do then is, can you show me some balls? Red Bulls will get stuck in. Can you get stuck in? Red Bulls will get stuck in. Can you get stuck in, stand over somebody, and ask them and their mama if they want to make something about it?
Yeah.
What you got?
Yeah. So what do you and your mama have to say about this one?
And to Anthony's, too much work to be done for a lot of these players to worry about their roles. I think you got to worry about your future.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We talk about this in the NFL when when a team is like 0-4, 0-5, staring at you, Jacksonville. Guys got to play for their futures. Like, yeah, they might not be making the playoffs, but if they're on an option year, or if they're maybe a target for movement, they got to play for their futures. They can't just completely phone it in, and folks will notice it, and folks will see it. You can't escape, especially these days, man. With I got cameras everywhere. We're tracking data. We're tracking your fitness. We're tracking how much you run. They're tracking how much you burp on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, you got to go out there and you got to absolutely bust your ass.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to show people something that you either deserve to be part of, what is going to be hopefully built starting in the off season, or if I can make other decisions that don't include you.
Yeah. And that's why, even if the players are, if to your point, Anthony, they got to think about themselves either here or they got to think about themselves someplace else. And if you go out and you just Christmas tree what happens in whatever minutes you're given in the final 2 matches of this season, then, that will affect you. That will affect you and your location next year if it is not here. So that's what we're staring at. Okay. Time to play cliffhanger, guys. Let me go through the standings really quickly in the East, but we're going to go cliffhanger with all the other matchups in and around what's going on. Messi and Friends have clinched. They're 11 points clear. Columbus has 3 matches to go. They can only max out at 66, so they can't catch them. Columbus at 57. FC Cincinnati and all of their issues at the back. 2 matches to go. They're at 56. Orlando, if they beat Cincinnati this weekend, the game next weekend won't matter because they can't catch Cincy, and NYC and Red Bulls can't catch them. So if you're the purple team, you want to try and win this one, so the one in 2 weeks doesn't matter. NYC and Red Bulls, both at 32 matches played. NYC FC has 13 wins, and Red Bulls only have 11. Charlotte's in at 45. They are 32 matches in, 2 to go. They can play anywhere from 7-4, depending on how things go. Montreal with the win, 10, 12, and 10. They're at 40. Then the fun begins. Toronto, 11 wins, 37 points. Philadelphia, same record as DC, and a 25-goal advantage in goal difference, +9 to -16. Atlanta's at 34. Nashville's at 33. New England's at 31. They need to win out with their 3 matches to finish at 40, and they need everybody else to lose everything else. Chicago, the dumpster fire, they're done at 30 points. And then you've got everything going on in the West. All right, so let's go juice boxes here and play cliffhanger. If there's a match that you want to talk about, just literally jump in and start talking about it, and we'll talk about it because that's how this goes. Because if there's a match and it draws your interest, then we'll talk about it. All right, so, and because our friends at Odds Portal do things alphabetically, I have to go all the way down to the letter U and click on a button. All right. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Toronto hosting Messi and Friends as a home favorite at BMO because Messi and Friends have clinched the number 1 seed. But for Messi and Friends, Tata Martino probably chasing after a points record. So the fact that they are a +165 dog on the road might be the one to take with Toronto FC at a +138. Gentlemen, what say you? Tyler, go.
I think they're going to rest everybody they can. That's geriatric FC. So they've done everything they have to do right now.
Yeah.
You don't want to take too much of a break because we see how that goes typically, right? Like a team gets a bye going into the playoffs, and all of a sudden they forget how to play football.
Mm-hmm.
But you have guys on that team that have been playing for a long time. They haven't forgot how to play football yet. So I think you can afford to rest them, make sure they're all set and ready to go. Because I know the supporter shield is great, and I know Michael Parkhurst had the tweet in the chat earlier, but like MLS Cup is the thing, and Tata has been there before. He's been in a very similar position, so he knows kind of how to, set his team up. So yeah, very long-winded way of saying, Inter Miami, they're gonna, I think, rightfully sit back a little bit, take it a little easier than normal, and I don't think that's going to be good for Atlanta if you're looking at the very small percentage,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Toronto is able to come out with a win.
All right, Jarrett, what do you think?
I have no idea. The reason I say that, everything Tyler said, I think is accurate.
True.
I also watched Toronto get as close as possible to Nick Saban made his ass quit territory the other night in the midweek.
Mm-hmm.
You're missing one of your key playmakers in this game. John Herdman, stopped the bleeding in 2024 for Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how well he actually stitched that wound closed, though, if it's going to pop back open or not.
Well, just
We're
ask
not
the
sure
drone manufacturers in Canada.
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to put it back together. They are wildly inconsistent. They've had some good performances from guys. Shout out to Derek Etienne Jr., who's been fine since he got there. Just was a classic change of scenery guy. Yeah. And he got his change of scenery, and he did well.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, man, they'll probably rest guys.
Yeah.
The rest part, and as Tyler mentioned it, the rest part is weird. And part of this is also to my chagrin with the whole best of three thing, which can make it fun but kind of weird. When we do rest, I prefer it to be decision day Saturday. Mm-hmm. First round should be that Wednesday, and the wild card should be that Wednesday. First round should be that next Saturday. That way, that it should always stay like that forever and ever. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way, at least the teams that earn a bye, quote unquote, they get a full week's break.
Right.
And the teams that are wild card have to go play in the midweek. That way, it doesn't feel like an extended break where you can still keep your rhythm, your game week rhythm, but you do have an advantage in terms of travel and energy. Just keep it like that. Don't overcomplicate it. I'm willing to put an ecto cooler juice box that MLS is going to change their playoff structure again in the next 2 years because
because if you want Apple TV to come up with more television episodes for their TV program, then you're certainly going to do that. If you want to draw more eyes to the whole process, then
you're going to have to change it in 2026.
That's also true. Yes, this is also true. We'll save Atlanta United and Red Bulls. Charlotte, CF Montreal. Charlotte's a big minus at a minus 152 as CF Montreal comes to town. Crew in Philadelphia. Crew's a minus 139. Union's a plus 313. Speaking of FC Cincinnati, they're a home favorite at a minus 114. Purple team's a plus 274 on the road. That 274, I'd take that in a heartbeat considering what we've seen from FC Cincinnati recently. DC United's a plus 202 on the road at the Revs, who are a plus 117. And NYC is minus 189 hosting Nashville at a plus 455. That is your Eastern Conference stuff. Atlanta United plus 124 hosting Red Bulls, who are a plus 196. Draws a plus 269. Tyler, what's your gut tell you about what they're going to do at right back with no Brooks Lennon?
Ronald. I think that's the plug and play option. And he played and did really well in that match against Columbus a few months ago. you know, anything Rob tried to do at this point would be totally valid if he got really weird. But I think the easiest answer is just simply to play Ronald, Pedro on the left. Defensively against Red Bulls, I mean, you're going to have to kind of sit back and play some ugly football, kind of like what we talked about earlier. And I know people will look and they have their faults for Ronald, but Ronald can put a ball on a dime across the pitch. And talking about getting Jamal or Daniel up there to catch some of these and try to come down with them and make something out of it, Ronald can put the right ball in. So I think, just the easiest is going to be put Ronnie in and see what happens.
Then center back, obviously, you go with Derek and Stian, Jarrett, but then you look at your midfield. You wonder if you're going to need to keep somebody back in more of a 6, or if you go to the 4-1-4-1-ish kind of a thing that we've seen that's caused problems for defenses where Bart goes forward. What are you looking at midfield going forward for Atlanta United?
What does Dax have in the tank? Because I don't know if it's much left.
It's all,
in general.
Yeah.
Like Dax is just he's on, I think he's on fumes at this point. It's just been a long season, and not even just like on the field. Obviously, for this organization, it's been a long season off the field.
Right.
I don't know what he's got in the tank. If he can sit and be that guy to kind of protect the back line, I'd ask him to do it. If he can give me that for 60 minutes or more, great. I'm really leaning towards the idea of pushing Jay further up the field, as we've seen him get not just better and more confident, but I think physically stronger. You go back to the goal against Charlotte where he's riding off challenges. Give me that from Jay, because you're going to need that. You're going to need somebody who can ride off the challenge, who can fight through contact. You're going to need someone to just be strong and tough in those moments. To Uncle's question, I don't know what Hernandez's fitness is. Would not be shocked if you saw Matt Edwards on the bench in this as an option. You're gonna need him. Maybe you get weird here, and you have an extra center back or 2 on the bench, and then you start shifting potentially to 3 at the back with wing backs if you really need to. Ask Pedro to play that wingback role. Hell, ask Moscato to play that wingback role. Like Tyler said, anything Rob does here is pretty much justified. I think one of the things, though, John, is that I will be very interested in Rob's reaction to things. Because the last few games, it hasn't just been the disappointment of not getting results across the line. It's also been, for me personally, it kind of reminds me of the way Gonzalo talked about things. Now, Gonzalo and Rob have different cadence in the way they speak.
Yeah.
They're going to say different things, but just that underlying frustration of, I can't do it for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to, you got to put the chances away, not off the crossbar, and you got to fight. I can't do that for you.
Yeah.
I can draw it up for you, but you got to go execute it.
Yeah. Unc, to your point, if Ronald can't give you 90, even though Ronald, will try to do his dead level best to, I think at that point, you probably turn the dial one notch to the right, and then Stian ends up being a right back. Derek slides. Your 6 pulls back in as almost like another center back, and Pedro stays on the left. So I think that you take the dial and you turn it one notch to the left, and everyone rotates over if Ronald can't give you 90, or you work with Matt Edwards or something like that as a part of the 18. Let's see. Any other games, either East or West? Because there are some knick-knacky newsy things that I want to get into before we get out of here. And Tyler, thanks for hanging out for like an hour, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other matches that you guys are going to be looking at? Jarrett, we'll start with you on any other matches you're going to be staring at just on general premise, or screw it, I'm going to watch them all. I think I stunned him.
No, you caught me in a situation where I'm having to pull up the schedule now.
Well, I could tell you what's going on. I mean,
no, I can look at it and tell you pretty quickly that, like, let's take a look. Because at the 5th, I don't even know what day it is. I have to go film a game tonight.
Yes.
High school football time, baby.
Right there with you, brother.
I'm interested in a couple of West Coast games just for like kind of dark reasons. Like LAFC's gonna go like they're gonna flay Kansas City, right? Like what is like Kansas City's gonna have one of if not their lowest point totals ever under Peter Vermes,
Yeah, and that's the thing.
who has been there since like I think Peter Vermes and Kirk Ferentz might be the two longest tenured coaches in American sports.
Yeah, and the offense is really showing for both, but that's another point.
Well, it's because Kansas City can't punt. If they could punt, I mean, my God, it'd be an entirely different conversation. Colorado and Seattle could get really feisty. LA and Austin, like we've seen like a lot of unconfirmed rumors all year about Josh Wolf. Is he on the hot seat? Is he not? Austin fans want him out. Sebastian Ruiz, he's out here liking tweets suggesting he's done and he wants out. I'm low-key amazed that Josh Wolf made it this far to the end of 2024. Like, what does Austin look like as a finishing act? What does the grand finale of 2024 for that schizophrenic ass team look like?
Yes, I always enjoy schizophrenic ass teams and what the endings are. According to Tancredi Palmieri, just in Manchester United in the past days have offered Inzaghi the role to take over the managerial job with immediate effect during the international break. But Inzaghi
don't they technically have a manager under contract?
But Inzaghi declined. So fun with So we got a manager. But hey, Inzaghi, do you want it? Inzaghi's like, nah, fam, I'm good. You already got somebody there.
Sometimes, the dumpster fire is not worth trying to put out.
No, sometimes you just got to let it burn, baby.
Yeah, just watch it go.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, it appears that biting is going to give you 8 games. And so literally, if you bite somebody, it's an 8-game suspension.
Okay, I heard that right. I didn't know where we were going with that. I had images of Luis Suarez already conjured up.
Close. Preston North End forward Milutin Zmajic has been handed an 8-game suspension for biting Blackburn's on-loan Liverpool defender Owen Beck during a championship match last month. The Montenegrin international was shown a yellow card by the match referee during the game, but the English FA subsequently charged him after reviewing the incident. Suarez got 10 for biting Ivanovic. Zmajic has been banned for 8 and fined 20 grand after he admitted the charge. So
I wonder if there's a repeat offender clause in there.
I'm sure there is. But Milutin Zmajic has been given 8 for biting for Preston North End for biting a player in the championship. So you got that to sit there and sift through as a part of it. I'm trying to look at some other things. Oh, the NWSL stuff that I wanted to get into before we get out of here. Oh, are there any other games, Tyler, that you're going to be keeping an eye
on? Just Cincy and Orlando. I think just because I'm curious what Orlando's going to do on decision day. And if Atlanta has a chance going into decision day, it would be nice if Orlando decided not to play.
Yes.
So I want to see how this one plays out versus Cincy. And to your point earlier, I mean, I would be betting against Cincy as well because they've just not been very consistent lately. And Orlando is that weird team that tends to either do really well or really bad at the end of the season. And it's always the opposite of what they've done in the beginning of the season.
Yes. And the slow fade for Oscar Pareja is not happening this year. So
I'm so excited about them getting into the playoffs. Like, I think it was 2020 when they got in, and like they were just picking up red cards in the playoffs, like 2 a game. Because then they had the one shootout where Gillespie got sent off in the shootout.
Yes.
And then they had to put an outfield player in, and the outfield player made a save.
Yes.
Then I think it was against New England. I think it was against Bruce's New England team. And then they had to go play the next week, or that was New England they played. And then they got like 2 more red cards. Like, I think it was like Huan just went like full Booker T missile drop kick on somebody.
Yeah. On the edge. Yeah.
until the day I die, I will associate that Orlando psychotic era with Nani. Like they just seemed to chill out when Nani was not there anymore. But like they had an edge, but like they saw the edge and they just ran past it like Wile E. Coyote.
Mm-hmm. And so it was Rodrigo Schlegel who took over in the NYCFC match. And
of course, it was on NYCFC.
Yeah. So it was Schlegel taking over for Gillespie after the Gillespie red. NWSL notes and by the way, and Bart made this point in the Twitch pitch. NWSL concludes an investigation into salary cap violations by Angel City, imposing disciplinary actions based on the findings. Following a review, ACFC violated multiple league rules during the calendar year 23, entered into 5 side letters directly with players that affected multi-year agreements and were not disclosed to the league. Agreements included a combination of compensation and benefits reflected in the standard player agreement and excess benefits that were neither reported to the league nor included in the standard player agreement. Basically, I guess it was NIL in the NWSL. Due to the undisclosed benefits, ACFC exceeded the salary cap by approximately $50,000 for 4 weeks during the 2024 season, fined $200,000, a 3-point deduction in the standings effective immediately. Julie Yerman, president and CEO, and Angela Huclis Mangano, GM, are suspended effective immediately from conducting duties relating to any player transactions for the remainder of the 2024 calendar year. In addition, the NWSL will be conducting annual investigations and audits of player spending across clubs to ensure compliance with league rules. And then the NWSL says that they remain committed to maintaining fairness and transparency across all clubs, reinforcing the importance of adhering to the established rules and upholding the competitive balance within the league. So I guess ACFC tried to go NIL and got busted because you can't quite do that. That's bad. So a team not making the playoffs, as Bart says, got found for busting, for breaking salary rules, and got deducted another 3 points. Thanks for coming by.
It's not an excuse at all, but like when I see things like this happen, especially like this one,
yeah,
it just feels like somebody genuinely just made a mistake. Like, because we know there's other little, bits and pieces and places that you can make, extra income, Lionel Messi, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be the first to say, I don't know how like all that has to be reported and what kind of channels they have to go through, but like, it just feels like somebody missed a zero somewhere.
Just do it as an NIL deal, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I will say the NWSL it seems like for every like issue that they've had with a club, for the most part, they lay down the hammer pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. That is absolutely true. And by the way, it looks like next week we are going to be hearing from, in addition to our normal batch of folks, we have a name for the new franchise in Northwest Arkansas in the USL. They are now going to be called Ozark United FC. They are no longer USL NWA. And Gordon Soley might have something to say about that by the time we're done. But they are now Ozark United FC, our friends in Northwest Arkansas that are helping out our friends at the Marshall Islands. So it is now officially Ozark United FC, Jarrett, with Northwest Arkansas in the USL.
I look forward to inevitably getting involved in some of the rivalries that exist there in like the Arkansas, Mississippi area, because it's a little tense, and it's kind of not talked about enough.
But they had a big to do and a big reveal. So they are now Ozark United FC, and I'm going to go probably and buy my USL and WA gear. Tyler, what else are you looking at for the weekend? Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what. What else are you looking forward to this weekend?
Just hoping there's something good to see at the Benz tomorrow. That's the biggest thing. We'll be there. We'll be doing our
what last night was for.
Yeah, like it's just how it goes.
Most likely to swag surf for Atlanta United in a situation like that would be whom?
I mean, Shonda Silva.
Yeah.
Or Edwin Mosquera.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Close the voting.
Yeah.
Voting is closed.
Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
No, that's it for me. I mean, we've got our shows tomorrow, before and after.
There you
Other
go.
than that,
Where are you going to be, in the building or at Signia, or what are you doing?
no, we'll be just doing our normal pre-match thing from the press box, and then our 3 takeaways after, and then watching whatever happens in the 90 minutes in between, and hoping it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Hoping that the locker room is much less somber than it was Wednesday night.
All right. Jarrett, what else are you staring at this weekend?
Oh man, just we'll keep an eye around the league. We'll see what the playoff looks like. You'll be seeing it as the night goes on, as we get into the emotional highs and lows of how it goes. If Atlanta gets an early lead, how excited do you get? You check other scores around the league, see how much it matters. I'll be keeping an eye on that. It's weird not having anything to do with Sunday with the Falcons. Not that the Falcons are normal or anything like that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'll want to see how much of Auburn's blood UGA can paint the field with.
Yes. Oh, and Abby's
going to be so angry.
Yes, the Halloween candy game as well. Absolutely true. Yes, absolutely true. All right, so it's going to be a full day on a bunch of different fronts. Tonight is high school football. Be there to support your favorite clubs. Be there tomorrow morning to support your favorite clubs leading into tomorrow night. Be careful with the tailgating. Pace yourself. It's supposed to be a nice day tomorrow, so pace yourself with your tailgating.
I'm just happy we're back to Friday nights, because last week I had to do a Saturday morning game.
Yeah,
the Friday night lights on Saturday morning does not hit the same way.
No, it does not. No, it does not.
I feel wrong.
Yes, and so at ATL Pilgrim, at Scarves, the letter N Spikes. Where else do folks pay attention, Tyler?
ScarvesandSpikes.com.
Mm-hmm. And the YouTubes.
And the YouTube. That is definitely the main one.
Yes. So it's great as always. Thank you for coming on 2 days after your normal and dropping by for like an hour and a half and seeing what's going on with all of us here. So that's the review, getting you ready for the weekend. He's Tyler. He's Jarrett. And so I'm going to see if I can actually pull this off this time and actually send us out appropriately. But it's going to be a 2-step process because, first and foremost, what we always have to do, we have to listen to the proper greeting for the weekend. For Tyler, for Jarrett, I'm John. We're out. Enjoy it, everybody. We will see you at the Benz. We'll see you all over the place. But first, it's time to remember that it's Friday.
The war was on. The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress. The streets are ours. Be gone.